Are you one of the 400,000 or so people who have viewed my video about moms holding emotional space for everybody in the family? I want to talk to you for a minute.
Because I'm going to share the story of how I lost my voice as a young child and learned how to regain it so that I would not be holding everybody's emotional garbage.
It was a summer evening when I was 6 years old. My mom went to the grocery store, put my dad in charge, and my two younger brothers and I went outside to play because it was a summer evening just before bedtime. And I asked my younger brother if he would want to have a race on the swing set to see who could go further. My littlest brother, who was 2 at the time, went and played in the sandbox. So 4-year-old brother and I were racing to the swings and then getting on the swings and going as high as we could, you know, little legs going as fast as they could. Dad was outside talking to someone who had stopped by, and you know, he was keeping his eye on us and whatnot. Well, I noticed at one point that my 2-year-old brother had decided, he must have decided, I don't know, I'm guessing, that he wanted to swing too. And so he left the sandbox and started walking toward the swing. Well, I was going really high and he was aiming right for me, and I knew that I might be able to stop, but it all happened very quickly. I didn't stop in time and I slammed into him. And then my swing came down, slam, right on him. And I remember, as a 6-year-old little girl, feeling just sick in my stomach because I loved my little brother. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't stop in time, and he was hurt, obviously. So he started crying. My dad came over, started to, you know, look after him. And I began to explain to my dad what had taken place. I said, Dad, you know, I was trying to explain myself, and he looked up and he was obviously upset, and he said, go to your room. I knew better than to try and push it with my dad at that time based on, you know, his voice. So my brother and I, the one that was swinging with me, we went to our rooms, and my mom came home shortly thereafter and took over my little brother. And eventually my dad came out to my room, and I had been laying there kind of crying. I didn't know exactly how hurt my brother was, and I was concerned, you know, obviously, and I felt bad. So my dad came in the room, and I tried to explain myself again. And he said, you're the oldest, you should have known better. And I stopped explaining to myself because I knew I wasn't going to be heard. And I want to say that that was a really mundane parenting moment, right? We all have maybe had that moment where we're not listening to our kids, where we're upset for one reason or another. Maybe my dad felt he should have been paying more attention, or maybe he just was really pissed, or maybe there was something else going on in his work world, or his, you know, my parents' marriage, or whatever. Bottom line, he didn't have the patience. But it was in that moment that I lost my ability to think that I had anything worthwhile to say. And for many years, I didn't raise my hand in school. I didn't speak up in relationships with boyfriends. It played out in my marriage and in my parenting, feeling unheard. And so I think this happens to a lot of women, not particularly my story, but a story just like that. And we can get stuck in the idea that we don't have a voice or we don't have a say. And a couple years ago, I asked myself, what do I really did this like in-depth look at myself, and I asked, what do I believe about myself? And one of the things that came up was that I'm not worthy of being heard. And like I said, it played out over and over in my life in a lot of situations. And then I asked myself the next question, where did that come from? And that's where the story of the 6-year-old little me came out. And then I asked, is it true? And I had to answer myself honestly and say, of course it's not true. Of course it's not true that I'm not worthy of being heard. I'm worthy of being heard. You're worthy of being heard. Our children are worthy of being heard. Everybody is worth hearing. But sometimes as moms, we forget and we take on way too much of everybody else's stuff. I made a conscious decision at that point to create a different belief about myself, one that was not related to the unconscious belief that I took on in childhood that I wasn't worth hearing. I indeed believe that I'm worth hearing. And so every day I have to practice this new belief. Part of that practice is getting in front of parents at schools. Part of that practice is inviting myself onto different podcasts about parenting. The point is, we don't have to silence our voice. We can make a decision and practice a new belief every single day. So if you find yourself holding emotional space more often than you want to, or because you feel you have to, know that you can rewrite your belief of that. Yes, we want to hold space for our family members that we love, but we don't have to feel overly responsible or attached to it.